Hey, what's up guys, it's Jay, and recently I've been on this retro gaming handheld craze, trend, whatever you want to call it, but I've been enjoying playing quite a lot of old games, retro games, games I've played before, favorite games, stuff like that. So I ordered this back in March, I believe, and got it like a couple weeks after that, and then I've been using this thing for like 2 months at this point, and I wanted to talk about it. So just wanted to show you guys the box. It comes in for the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. I got the crystal model, you guys see there, and comes with this nice little magnetic flap. Opens up like that. You can see the device there. Obviously, I've been using it for a while. I just wanted to show what you can expect out of here. You got a foam pad, a little wrap for the device, some paper information, cable, and you see I never really used the cable, but it is nice that they include that extra stuff just in case you need it. It doesn't come with a screen protector, which I thought was a little weird, but you know, I digress. But this is the main show. But yeah, what is included though is this nice translucent crystal color that they have on their website. You guys can see it's just beautiful. And one of the things that they changed from the previous model with the textured or cleared versions, I guess, is previously when I ordered the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, it was actually clear as well. It was a purple one, but the texture was like quite a bit much, and I didn't like that. And also I didn't like the fact that the buttons, like home buttons and stuff, were on the side, which is really weird because you're holding the device like this, and why Retroid? So they instead, this time, they've got the buttons on the top, right? So on the right side, I'm kind of filming, it looks like it's on the left, but right side here is the power button right here. You got your volume up and down, which I'll talk about later. You got the vent for the exhaust here. And then on this side, you got the mini HDMI, which I'll talk about later as well. And talking about these buttons, you know, they're definitely better placement. The vents here, kind of the heat comes up, and then you can see in the back, you got the fan right here, and then it, you know, comes up, it sucks the air in, comes up like this. And then I did notice, like, I don't know why they made extra holes here when the fan only kind of like is in this area here, but you know, nonetheless, cool. You can see the back there, and it's pretty easy to check out, by the way, if you need to do any swaps or stuff like that. But so right there, yeah, you can see the Retroid logo there. It's quite nice. And wanted to kind of go back to the top here, get the trigger buttons, R1, R2, L2, L1, L2. So quite nice analog triggers, pretty tactile, especially the top ones are like more tactile feeling, like a switch feeling. And then the bottoms they have this spring-loaded type of reaction. Both of them do have like a texture to them. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus there. So yeah, you guys can see there it has some texture, which is nice. It's definitely better than like just plain black, slippery gloss kind of feeling. So yeah. So what if you notice that the R1, L1, they're a little bit thin, but don't really have a problem, right? You can access each one, no problem. But let's go to the front here. Did want to just talk about the front portions of the device here, probably the main part, I guess. And on this side, you have the face buttons. You guys can see it's a little small. Even after using it for a couple months, I still feel like it could have been a little bit bigger, but I don't really know how because there's literally no space. And the spacing between each one is quite small. So I don't know, it feels a little bit cramped at times. And then on the other side, you have your D-pad here, which is quite nice. I think it's one of the best D-pads I've used. Definitely console-like. It has like a dome switch kind of feeling. I don't know if, like, I know there's like a whole debate between dome and like whatever. I think it's fine. I do like it's textured in the sense that it has an embossed, kind of engraved on each side, on each corner. So yeah, you can kind of know like where you're pressing and stuff. It's just a nice touch. So going down here a little bit, you have the Hall effect joysticks, which are really nice. Definitely, again, console-like. They're definitely better than like even the Switch ones for sure. Like there's miles better. I kind of tested it compared to the 8-bit Pro controller I have, and I'm like, man, this is probably better than those two. And those are like console controllers, right? So I wanted to talk about lastly just the bottom buttons, right, where they previously on the sides of the device. It now lives on the bottom here, so you can hit back and home, and then you start select obviously over there. So pretty standard stuff, I think. Now, obviously, they have to make some sacrifices. The buttons are quite small. It's not a big deal. It is just something I wanted to point out, just because you are sacrificing, quite a bit of real estate with. One thing that didn't really sacrifice, at least in my opinion, is the screen. It's a 4.7 IPS display. It's touchscreen. Works really well. Turn it on real quick. I'll show you guys. See, I've been kind of in the gaming mode. I've been playing Pokemon Black 2, and it's been great. Turn it back off there. But yeah, the display, you can see when I turn it on here, I wanted to show you real quick. So real quick here, I wanted to show you guys. You see the bezels on the display are okay. I would say they're almost to the point where it's like, oh man, they really should have gotten, less bezels. But I'm all right with these bezels. It's not the greatest, but I think if they had like smaller bezels, maybe they could have pushed this device to a 5-inch display. But in either case, you're not. I don't think you're losing that many pixels, considering a lot of retro games. They have different aspect ratios, and you'll probably be okay. And I'll explain why later. One of the other good things about this display is that it gets pretty bright. I don't remember how many nits, but I've never really had issues playing outdoors. And then also at night, it has a lower dim display mode. Let me see here if I can show you guys. Yeah, so it has the lower display mode. You can dim it. So one of the other things is the joysticks are, the placement actually of this left side joystick is, mainly for retro gaming because of the D-pad being on top. So when you put your thumb, it kind of like, naturally rests here, and then you kind of have to shimmy it a little bit to kind of move. I don't know if I can show it, but essentially you kind of have to like shimmy your hand to kind of do this, something like this. So it puts strain on this part of your hand, but you can just kind of like move it so it's a little bit more ergonomic friendly. But I would definitely not try to play this 8 hours a day, 7 days a week type of situation. But for me, I think a lot of the games that are kind of like modern 3D games, like PS2 games, GameCube, etc. So I've been mainly playing games like Kingdom Hearts 2 or Zelda, Ocarina of Time, stuff like that, where yes, you do use the joystick, but you're not using it all the time. There's cutscenes, things like that. So kind of allows you to give your thumb a break. But like, when I had earlier I had Pokemon, right? I just used the D-pad and the buttons, right? The face buttons all the time. I rarely use the joysticks in this kind of game. So, for retro gaming, this is the perfect device. And then you have the joysticks as a secondary. Now, speaking of options, so this kind of device is using Android-based platform. So I'll try to show it to you guys real quick here. I just brought up the drawer, and it's quite nice. It's easy to set up with Android initially. But setting up all the emulators, doing all the configuration settings, getting it to how you like, all that can take a while. And if you're not a tinkerer like I am, you probably won't enjoy setting up the process, and you might get annoyed. And then you might not even finish doing so. However, it just depends on you, and if you're willing to do it, maybe just do one emulation system at a time and then go from there. But yeah, setting up the device for the first time, Wi-Fi connection, all that stuff, it's super straightforward. If you own an Android device, it's literally the same setup. It's Android 13, so it's quite new. So you're normally presented with the Retroid launcher, which I basically used for like 5 seconds to grab all the basic apps I needed, grab ESDE emulation station, and then I set that up, and then I'm pretty much gone with not using the default launcher. And in particular, I was using Russ from Retro Game Core. His guide on how to set it up is, I think it was his Retroid Pocket 3, essentially, with an update to the 4 and just change settings. And I changed some settings from what he had, and just to tweak it to what I like. But overall, it's mostly the same. So the tweaks I did were pretty much just straight up using his reference. I'm using ESD as my launcher, so by default, when I hit home, it goes to this guy. So if I press home, you see it just goes here. And yeah, it's quite nice. I did also use my own custom wallpapers that I found on the interwebs. And yeah, and if we go through each device, you can see each one has its own configuration. This is a lot more than what people, I think, would mostly do. You can use the default theme. Some of the default themes that come with Emulation Station. That's what I did essentially. I think it's called From Alex Full. I'll put the link and then information in the description underneath the like button. But yeah, you can see it's quite nice. You can go through each one, you can go through each system, and then if you want to go in, you can just go in, and you can have all the setup, you have scrape the box art, all this stuff. You just have to configure it. As you can see, I didn't do it for every system. It's quite a lot of work, and you kind of have to it's not super automated. You kind of have to do it for each system, or let it sit for a while, which I didn't really do. But I did for some systems like this, like Pokemon, right? And you can see it plays audio or plays a little display after you wait for a few seconds actually. But I would say overall, the software experience on something like this, where it's an Android device, it's quite better in terms of just stability versus a Linux-based gaming handheld. Also things like Anbernic. I like Android in that sense. It's a lot easier to set up drivers, all that stuff for developers. It's a lot easier to work with, I think, versus Linux, just because of just the nature of the platform. Speaking of the platform, so because this is on an Android device using an Android chipset, the performance, let's talk about it. It's honestly not much to talk about really. It's gonna be pretty short because, so yeah, this device can pretty much play everything. I mean, we're getting up to the point where emulation can just, we're hitting the limits of the software developers' ability to basically emulate, the system's hardware. And, at this point, it's more of just on them, on the community to take advantage of the hardware. And because we're on an ARM system, it's different from a Windows system where you can just, the instruction sets are different or whatnot, and maybe it's a little bit harder to work with because it's on an ARM system. I don't know. So one of the things I did want to mention was some of the Fruit named emulation systems could still use some development, especially it's still an active system. However, due to some legal actions recently, they weren't able to continue their Fruit endeavors. But despite that, I've been able to play some games without issue. 30 frames. It does dip from 30 to 20, 25 here and there. It just depends on what game and where you're at in the game. So, but overall, I'm really happy. NES, Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, N64, PS2, Wii, GameCube, they all work well. Again, you just have to tweak the settings for each system, but once you do that, things are good. Now, the other Fruit emulator, the older one, that one does seem to have stability issues here and there when I was playing a certain game. And yeah, it would crash here and there, and it crashed like a few times in the week I was playing it recently. And so, it is what it is. But I think one other thing potentially could help is having more RAM, because I think this device only has 8 gigs of RAM. Maybe having more RAM would help, especially since I didn't really hear these type of issues on, for example, like a PC platform or even a Steam Deck. So lastly, I wanted to talk about just the intangibles, everything else I didn't talk about in this section, just because I think this is probably the most subjective section of this review so far. One of the things was I wanted to just preface it by saying that I own a Steam Deck. I am a PC gamer first and foremost. I do have a PS5 and a Switch. So I do have the, console systems as well, but I first started off gaming on PC. I have a ton of games on my Steam library, so that's what I got first. And so that kind of hope to give you guys a perspective of maybe you're another Steam Deck owner and you're looking for another device to kind of be on the go, that's powerful enough to play most systems, that can do retro gaming, do some modern gaming without, in bursts, right? And so this is that device. This is what I've been looking for, because I owned the Steam Deck for a while, for a couple years at this point, and I take it with me whenever I go, but I had to bring my backpack, which is fine, but that means I'm usually at a cafe or a library or something like that where I'm studying or working, and then, I want to play my Steam Deck for a little bit. But then my Steam Deck, it's great, it's ergonomic, all that stuff, but it's big, heavy, relative to this device, right? Of course, right? The Steam Deck is still pretty, light, I would say, but, one of the things I missed when I was using my Switch quite often was because it's lighter, but also kind of with that same issue with the Switch, right? It's big, heavy. It's not really the most pocket friendly. And so that's what I've been searching for as the next device, or a companion device to the Steam Deck and my Switch, is essentially a smaller device that can still be very powerful, in this pocket friendly, not pocketable, I would say, device format, this format, right? And, it can play retro games, it can play some 3D games, and so it can play it in bursts too. So if this is that device, and that's what I had been looking for a while, after doing some research on some other devices in the market. And so this is that device. I mean, yes, it's the buttons, a little small, like these are a little small. The display is like, it's a 4.7 inch IPS LCD. It's not the greatest, right? But the combination of everything, right? The build quality, using Android, and just the performance, I really didn't have issues like with heating or like fans, fan noise, all that kind of stuff. You can set all those things, and you can configure it the way you want. And I mean, I play for like maybe an hour max, an hour and a half max at a time. Most of the time I'm playing for like, 15, 20 minutes, things like that, like short bursts. And this is that device, right? I can just play at home, watching TV or something like that. I'm just playing on the side. Okay, cool. Like this is a great option. And it beats kind of sitting on the computer, which I'm trying to get away from a lot, just sitting on my PC, playing all day, and just, I can go somewhere with this and just play. And it fits in my little everyday carry bag, is a little tiny bag, my air bag, or my Coda Bell bag that I've reviewed before. And so I put this in there, and it fits great. I mean look at it's pretty thin. I mean, it's able to just fit in there. I mean, it's it's almost the size of my phone, right? It's a little bit bigger than my iPhone 14 Pro, but it's about the size of my Pixel 8 Pro, and the other great thing is that you're able to, consoleize this device. Is that the right word? But, because of the mini HDMI port, you're able to just plug this in, plug it into your TV monitor, and, hook up a Bluetooth device, because this is Android, so it's easy to connect, and then you just game like that. And so size-wise, though, this is about the same size as the PS Vita, which I wanted to mention that because, well, there's the Odin 2 Mini that's coming out as I'm making this video. I don't know if I'll be getting that one because, it is like $100 more, and it's more expensive than the Odin 2 for some reason. It does have a better chipset, so it can run better. It can run at higher resolutions better, and all that stuff, right? Bigger battery, etc. And it has a bigger screen, and it is a mini LED, which means that you should be getting a better display for sure. Like, I just don't know how much better, and is it worth an extra $100 and all of that stuff. And one of the other things I did notice that the Odin 2 had, just real quick, or Odin 2 Mini had like these back grips, or like these rubber pads on each side. So we'll see how that is. But I mean, I don't know. I really like this device. It's so cool looking. People always ask me like, oh, what's this device, whenever I bring it out, especially with this translucent crystal color. So if you're in the market, you already have a Steam Deck, kind of like in my situation, right? Or you have a device, a bigger device, and you want to get a smaller one for that kind of on-the-go gaming, and this is the price point. I think this is really the best price point. Maybe obviously cheaper the better, but $200 around that price range, $150 to $200, which is for the Retro Pocket 4, and then the Pro is the $200 model. that price range, I think it's the kind of like that sweet spot. It's more expensive than $100, so it's a little bit more investment, but it's not $400, it's not $300, where like the Steam Deck or the Odin 2. And so that's kind of where the issue with the Odin 2 is, because of that price range. It's kind of like eating into that market portion. So this is that device. I think if Retroid's able to make little improvements with the face buttons, maybe try to upgrade the display somehow. I don't know if they're able to, but those would be my suggestions, is to kind of look at those and then possibly upgrade those. I know some people may complain about the joysticks being like, oh, so high or whatever, but I'm like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Same with these. I think these are really nitpicks. I do agree, yes, that they are sort of just like things that are like annoyances in terms of like it doesn't make it as pocketable, but I'm like, okay, just bring a little bag. I mean, that's, portable bag, and then everyday carry bag, and you're good to go. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really have problems doing like that for, a couple months now. So, but anyways, overall, I'm super happy with this device. Again, overall, great device. The battery is great. I mean, the controls are pretty good. I think especially for this price, I think it's probably the best device that you can get at this price range. If you're gonna look higher, it gets a little bit harder. But if you were gonna buy one device to kind of, now's it, like you only can save up, for this amount, and then that's it, I would probably still get the Steam Deck, just because it can do PC and Android emulation. But if you don't care about PC gaming at all, then I think it makes sense to just go with the Odin 2. It probably is still the best device in terms of just what you're getting and everything like that. But yeah, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this. Do you think I'm telling the truth? Do you think I'm crazy for saying this? But yeah, otherwise, I will see you guys later. Peace.